All right, so just to give you a small overview of what is a C3D. So I've downloaded, if you look in the next week assignment, there's a link here to a C3D file to download. So this is the file that we're gonna work with. So if you download it, I already downloaded it here. So this is my file, C3D. And if I drag and drop to Motionbuilder, you might not see anything if you're in models only. So you have to be in normal or X-ray. So see, these are the markers I was talking about. Okay, so the markers move around. Won't be cleaning the whole thing. We'll just be cleaning maybe the first 250 frames. So this is the C3D. So I'll just show you the process. So let's say you have a character. I'm gonna choose maybe this guy. Let's open it. Open all takes. So we have this character. He's characterized humanoid, and then we have the definition. Everything is set up, right? Toes, fingers, yeah. So the process is we go in characters, template characters, and there's something here. Not this is the one we've been using since the beginning, right? Character. The one we need is called actor. So the actor is the one we need to attach the C3D to. So we drag and drop this. So what you get is similar, you know, a character, but it's called an actor instead of a character. So this actor will be driving the character. I'll show you where to activate it. And the C3D merge with options. Normally you want, the first one you want to create, and you want to uncheck unused optical data. Okay. So the process is the C3Ds, the markers will drive the actor, and then the actor will drive the character. And once you clean up, you know, the marker curves, then you can bake to the character of its own, and then you'll be able to use it in your previs. You know, you separate the actions, you do whatever. Chances are, most likely you won't be using the C3Ds to build your previs unless you go in the course, you know, this one, the resource mocap resources. There is a file, a section in there where I put links to C3Ds online. Okay, so this way, normally, you know, without working from home, you would record your data on the mocap stage at Dawson, and you would get these 3Ds, and you're able to use it in your previs. But unfortunately, because we don't have access to Dawson, we can't go and capture. You won't be able to use these 3Ds in your previs. So I'm still gonna teach you this technique, because let's say in 3 years you graduate and you find a job, at least you know the technique and how to use it in your animations. So if you're curious, there is, like I said, there is some links in this section of the document, right? This file here, resources. This here, there's C3Ds in this site. There's a couple free ones, couple of samples too in these ones. So if you're curious and you want to practice, check out these links. But for this assignment, we're just going to use this one, the one I supply with the assignment. Okay. So the first thing we're going to do is there's kind of 3 steps in the process. The first thing we need to do, we need to prep our character, basically create the actor version of the character we have, and then attach the C3Ds to the actor, and then make the actor drive the character. Okay, so first step, I'm gonna load the character. I'll choose a humanoid. It's fine because he's kind of like normal size. He's like 2 meters, roughly 2 meters. It's okay. I mean, he's doesn't have to be exactly 2 meters because the bigger or smaller character you have, the more tweaks you have to do. So let's keep it simple for now, and you just use like a kind of a normal size human and work with that. Okay. So the first thing, the character is really in a really straight T-pose. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do, we normally do before we create the actor, is if you have a control rig, we need to delete it. So first thing we need to check is if you go in characters, we see the character, but we don't see a control rig, so which is good. If you have a control rig like this active, I would go in and delete it because we don't need it at the moment. Okay, so we just need the character template. Okay. We switch to stance to get the T-pose, just in case the joints were a little bit off. And then we switch to none, okay? And what we're gonna do now is we're gonna relax some of the joints, mostly the elbow and mostly the knees. The reason is we need to mimic in general what the actors were doing on stage. Okay, so if you scrub through this video, I'm not really sure where it is, before recording excuse me, so this is the T-pose. Before recording, they do a kind of a T-pose before starting the movement. So we need to mimic this natural T-pose as much as possible, and nobody in the world can give you this perfect alignment of joints. So we need to just relax the elbows a little bit. I'm gonna use, actually before I do the elbows, I'm gonna raise the shoulders because when you're doing a T-pose, you normally raise the shoulders as well. Right now, this character, his shoulders are a bit low, so I'm gonna try to select both. Whoops. I'm gonna freeze the mesh, so I don't select it every time. I'm actually gonna save it somewhere else. I believe here, characters. I'm gonna call them humanoid actor setup. Okay. So I'm gonna select the shoulders. If you press and hold spacebar and marquee select, you can select another joint. Or I think usually, yeah, just control works too. So because I'm in local, if you guys remember, if you're in global, you will rotate all on the same axis, but if you switch to local, you can rotate them both at the same time. Okay, maybe just a little bit more. Yeah. And then the shortcut to go down one hierarchy is Alt and one down, the arrow down on your keyboard. Okay. So what I did is I just went down. Oh, they have roll bones. Okay, never mind then. It's okay. We're gonna select it manually. So, because they have roll bones in the character, I don't want to rotate the roll bones. Okay, so I can rotate these ones down a little bit. Yep, that's good. They're a little bit elevated, that's fine. And now I'm gonna rotate the elbows. So I think oh, okay, it works. Yeah. So see, I'm not going too much. I'm just rotating maybe 15 degrees to give it that natural bend. Okay. I want to do the same thing with the knees. So I'll probably rotate the thighs a bit first, and then bend the knees, and then knees. Just to give it that, there we go, little bend. And then I have to watch for the feet, because now the feet have a small rotation, right? And they're going through the ground. So I just need to make it compensate basically for it. I'll choose the other side and rotate the other foot. Okay. There we go. So now my knees are bent a little bit and my elbows are bent as well. That's it. So now we can merge or bring in the actor. So templates, characters, actor, bring that in. It kind of perfectly lines up, but we still have a bit of work to do. So first thing I want to show you is, see, we have now humanoid and we have an actor. So we kind of have another type of character inside the scene, okay? So these capsules are useless. They're useless except for the feet, which I'm gonna go through a little bit later. So the first thing we're gonna do is hide these capsules, because what we want to do is, you see these joints here? These are this is the skeleton of the actor. Think of it as the joints of your character. This is the equivalent. These ones are the equivalent of the actor. So what we need to do, we need to align these to the joints of the character. So we're aligning the skeleton of the actor to the skeleton of the character. I know it's a little bit confusing, but yeah, as I go along, you'll understand. So what we can do, we can hide the capsules to get a better representation. So in here, make sure you're on actor. You click on the actor button or character button, the blue button, I call it, and go in show hide. And you see these little dots. Just click on it once to kind of tear off the tab. Okay. So now we can just bring it aside here so we can have better access to it. So just a side note, this thing will probably not work if you open and close a scene. So you need to do this twice. So don't be surprised if it doesn't work if you close a scene and we open a scene. Okay, so in here it's showing everything. So it's showing the actor everything, which is the body and the skeleton and the marker set and the pivot points. So what we don't want is the actor body. We just hide them. Actor skeleton is, you know, the joints we need to move. Marker set is, we don't see marker set because we haven't assigned anything to the skeleton. And pivot points is the orange pivots on the character. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do is we need to move, the hips are here. Yep. So this is the joint for the character. The only bone you can move on the actor skeleton is the hip bone. Okay. If you by mistake you move any other one like this, move it, you're creating yourself a bunch of problems. So please be careful. If you by mistake you move the spine and you dislocate it, just undo, actually undo might not work. You might have to reopen and then scene and do it. So just be careful which bone you move. The only bone you should be moving is the hip bone. So I'm gonna align the hip bone to the hip bone of the character, which is this. So I'm gonna bring it down here and align it as close as possible. So it is kind of visually, I don't see the bones underneath. So just a little trick. You can put the skeleton of the actor kind of in box mode, or if you want to call it in wireframe mode. Okay. The way to do this is if you hold down space and you right mouse click on the hip bone, it selects all the children. What do you do now? You just press 1 on the keyboard. And what that will do, it will render the selected objects as wireframe. Okay. If you by any chance you click 4 and then 5, it re-adds the shading, the whole shading back. So if you lose it, you just need to redo it. So hold down space, right mouse click, press 1 on the keyboard. So now what do we get is kind of a wireframe mode of the actor. So I'm gonna change the color as well. So just for those of you who like to do custom stuff, I've selected all the actor pieces, the skeleton. If you go in properties here and actor settings, skeleton color, right now it's purple. I'm just gonna change it to something brighter, yellow, just to get a better visual or contrast between the actor skeleton and the character skeleton. Okay, so we match the hips. So now we need to match the other joints. So how do we do that? A combination of scaling the actor skeleton and rotating. And you have to scale on one axis. How do we do that? Is I have the hip bone selected. So I need to match, you see these pivots? So this is the pivot of this bone. So I need to scale the parent so that this pivot is matching this pivot on the character. Okay, so I click scale while selecting the hip bone, and then I just scale up on one axis using the y-axis. I scale it up until that pivot is roughly in the same location as the character joint or skeleton. Same thing with the next one. It's actually pretty close, so I just need to scale it down a little bit. I can rotate a little bit to kind of match this. So if I click rotation and rotate a little bit back, now it's matching better. I click on the next one, and I need to scale it up to this, which is the neck bone here. So this pivot is actually the neck bone. Okay, so I scale it up and rotate a little bit backwards. I have snap on, so that's why it's snapping all over the place. That's good enough. And then I do the neck. Scale. That's good. And then you don't need to worry about rotation, but I'll do it anyway. It's okay. Just to be on the safe side. Okay, so now we've done the spine and the head. We're ready to do the arms and the legs. So as you can see, there's a huge offset. So please remember, do not make this mistake. Do not go in and move this, because this is what happens, is you're dislocating the skeleton, actor skeleton, from the pivot point. So you're creating, once you put the motion on, you're gonna have this huge offset. So actually the undo works, but I'm not gonna trust it. I'm just gonna reopen the scene. And yes, once you reopen the scene, you're gonna lose the wireframe. So I'm just gonna go space, select one, and I can start the offsetting. So how do we, so the question is, how do we offset the arms and everything else? We need to offset it in here in the properties tabs. So if you go in, if you select one actor bone and you go in there's so many settings. Just hold on a second. Actor skeleton offset. This is it. So it's the second drop down menu. So in here you have an offset per bone. Okay, so I need the left collar. See the name in here. So I go down. Did I miss it? Here. Okay, so there's an offset on translation. You only need translation. You don't need to worry about rotation. I don't think that's the one. Hold on a second. Body parts. So this is body part pivots. Let's try this one. Left shoulder. Okay, sorry, I apologize. There's too many. I usually don't do this very often. That's why. So I apologize. It's the third section. So body part pivot. Okay. The names are a little bit different. I know it says here left collar, but it's called here left shoulder. So what we need to offset is we need to offset these numbers. Okay, X, Y, Z. So unfortunately, it's not mirrored, so we need to type whatever offsets you put here, we need to mirror it on the other side. So I'm going to play with these numbers until we match the pivots of the character. So that looks pretty good. So now what do I do? You can copy paste these values to the other side. The only one you need to put it in negative is the X, because this is this. So XYZ, this is the 0, 0 of the world. So this is positive, see? Positive X going this way and negative X this way. So what we need to do is we need to put negative values on the left, on the right side. If you were doing the right side first, you would have to put the positive values on the left side. Okay, so copy, put minus and paste. See, it's starting to line up. All the other ones you can copy paste. They're gonna line up perfectly. See? So now, after we move the shoulder, now we can rotate scale the same way we did with the hip and the spine bones. Okay, so scale and rotate down. You can switch to local because you want to rotate with the local pivot. And let's see, we just need to rotate it back a little bit to match the pivot closer. And maybe just scale it a little bit. There we go. Now we can rotate this one to match the elbow. Looks like it's maybe a little bit too big. So scale that down to match. And maybe just rotate it a little bit upwards. There we go. And now for the wrist. You don't have to worry about the fingers because C3Ds, well, the expensive systems normally have finger mocap that come with the C3D, but the system we have at Dawson doesn't capture the fingers, so you don't need to match the fingers at all. As long as your wrist pivot matches the character pivot or skeleton. So everything else, okay, so the scale, when you scale bones on one side, it mirrors on the other side, but it doesn't mirror the rotation. So we need to kind of manually rotate them. I think we could have selected the two bones at the same time and rotated it, but manually rotating them is just as good. It doesn't have to be like right on, as long as like the X, the pivot point falls inside the ball joint, the pivot joint. That's fine. Okay, so upper body is good. Now we can do the same thing with the legs. So same process. Left hip. Gonna bring it in just a tad. If it's snapping too much, you can just type it in. So let's say try 9. There you go. And here -9. And then the up. Oh, weird. So there's, see, there's a, it's creating a kind of an offset when I move the, this is bad. Let me see what's going on. Oh, it's just the Y. Yeah, I remember. Okay. So, okay, we'll fix that in a Jiffy. Jiffy. I think it's Jiffy. So put it to 1. No, 1 is too far. Maybe 2. Or 2.5 or 2.3. Um, 8.5. Okay, so that looks a little bit closer to the pivot. I just adjusted it by a couple of units. And I'm just gonna use the same values on the Z. And now for the height problem. I remember somebody telling me about this actually. So there's a problem with the feet, with the legs, sorry, with the hips. If you move it up, it puts an offset every time. See, the pivot is moving, so we need to fix this at this stage. So I believe the way to fix it is to go back in that previous section we were, or actually maybe just moving it. Oh yeah, okay, we can move it too. So maybe I lied. So I forgot about this step. So this is another bone where you can move the hip bones. Okay. So sorry, not the hip bone, the hips and the left hip and the right hip bones. Those are the only bones you can move. Because if you have to move it that much in the body part, we're creating an offset, so you need to compensate. You can't leave this like big huge gap because you're gonna put offsets on the motion. So just make sure so let's align the pivot first. So 0.5, no, 0.4, or maybe 0. Okay, so 0 probably is the best. Put 0 here. And now you see the actor skeleton is kind of offsetted, so I just need to bring it down a little bit, move it a little bit. Same thing here. That should work. So the only 3 bones you can move is the hips and the left leg and the right leg. Okay, so now we can match the knees. So they need a little bit of rotation and scale. So always select the top one, which is the parent, scale it. And maybe rotate using local pivot. Oh, I can select the other one and do it at the same time. Yeah, it's a little bit off. Add a little bit more rotation. And maybe just scale it empty pivot. There we go. Closer. Now we can rotate the knees to match the ankle pivot. Rotate. We scale up. So if you're having difficulty, I can maybe do, you can do 2 viewports and set this one to, oh, Rania, and set this one to X-ray, because then you can scale here and see if the pivot is getting closer to the pivot. That looks good. Save. And now for the feet, the last 2 bones. If you remember, I told you I'm gonna use the actor body. This is the only section where I'm gonna use the actor body. So I'm gonna turn the actor bodies on, and we need to scale the feet using the actor body. For some reason, that's how it works. So we'll just go with that. Select the toe and then the foot, and then we scale both. The ankle bone is correct, right? We just need to scale both of these capsules, the foot and the toe, to match the toe bone, okay? So I'm gonna scale this like this, and a little bit like this. And now it's correct. It's a little bit off, so we can probably rotate a little bit, maybe with the snap-on, so we can actually, can we rotate both? No, not in local. So this much, maybe a couple of degrees. Yeah. And then the last step is we scale the toe actor body so that the end of the mesh or the capsule is matching the tip of the mesh of your character. Okay. So that's it. So don't go more. Just enough to touch the edge of the mesh of the character. That's it. I have a feeling this rotation. Yeah, maybe we're just gonna rotate it a little bit because I don't like this weird angle. So I'm just gonna straighten it up. Okay, save. So step 1 is done. So now I'm gonna bring in the C3Ds. So normally I like to save this file separate, and once I bring in the C3D, I save it as something else. Okay, so I'm gonna save it. Not in assembly, but maybe I'll create a new folder called mocap C3D. Okay, and I'll call it humanoid or maybe just week 5 or week 6. Week 6 C3D. Okay. So after downloading the one from Moodle, I bring it in. Merge. Go C3D option, because I want to show you a couple of things. So the first one, you bring in the C3. You can, by the way, you can merge after you create the first C3D, merge in the first C3 in your scene. You can merge more on top of it, but the first one you create, you need to create, not merge. But the second one you merge in, you will switch it to merge. That's why I went to import options to show you this these options here. So create, by default, I believe this one is on. So just uncheck it, because sometimes the marker data has more markers than we need, and it will create it if you have this on. So just make sure you have it unchecked. Okay, and then click import. Okay, so what do we got here? We got two actors, actually. There's 2 of them. Actually, there were 3. I wish I had the video to show you. And what's happening is, see, like, we're gonna be cleaning up this one. Let me just actually first just squeeze it down to like maybe 300. Let's say 225. That's good. I don't need more than that. It's at 24. I'm gonna switch to 30. I don't know why it switched to 20. Okay. So the first thing we're gonna do is, if you see here, she's going forward. She's going the wrong way. It's the way oh, just a second. Okay, so we're saying that she's going the wrong way. It's because the way that they calibrated the stage, it's facing 180. So the first thing we're gonna do is rotate the marker set to face the same way as the actor, because we don't want to rotate the actor. The actor is correct, the actor and the character. We just want to rotate the C3D. So the C3Ds come with a parent already. Okay, so this parent is this little sphere at 0, 0. You see it? So if I move this, it moves both characters. Actually, we're gonna be using this one, so I'm just gonna hide these ones. So if we go, and it's a little bit less confusing. If we go in actors, no, sorry, not actors. In navigator, scene, navigator scene C3D optical. See here, there's the name of the actors that were on stage. So we had Jeremy and we had Tyra. Okay, so we're just gonna hide Jeremy because we don't need his C3Ds, his markers. Okay. And I'm just gonna go in schematic view, press F. Oh, this thing shut down. So yeah, press F. And then right click on any node and just hide. Okay. So now back to that optical C3D optical. Again, it's the parent. We can move it and we're gonna rotate it so that it's facing the right way. Make sure you're in global and maybe use a different snap, maybe 10 degrees. It's a little bit faster. So now it's in the right rotation. So first thing we're gonna do is position the C3Ds inside the actor. Actually, think of it as the character is wearing the suit with the markers. Think of it this way. Okay. Because we're mimicking what was coming, what's happening on stage on the character that you have on screen. So we need to scale the optical data. The points of reference is the wrists. So these are the wrist. If you click, if you see here, wrist out, wrist in. So these are the names of the markers. You have waist here as well. Yeah. And to make sure you rotated the optical data properly, select the back ones to see if it says ankle or heel. Sorry. This is your heel and this should be your toe. Yeah. Okay, so that's the way to check if you rotated the optical data in the right way. So I want to scale this the optical data so that at least the wrist markers match the wrist of the character. Okay, so scale it up, maybe a little bit more. Yeah, so don't worry about it's a little bit off because Tyra's T-pose was a little bit off, but it's not a big deal. Just try to match the scale as much as you can with this pose. So I think the wrists kind of match, but the position is a little bit off because now the hips are too forward. Okay, so what we need to do is just pull back the C3Ds a little bit so that they're more in place on the actor or the character. They might be a little bit too big, so just scale it down a little bit. And please always scale uniformly. So if you start seeing here weird numbers on the scale, like don't scale this, this is no good. So if you see these numbers here, that means you've scaled improperly. So you need to have uniform scale. Just make sure the same XYZ, it's the same numbers. I think that's looking a little bit better. I'll move it a little bit to the right side. Okay. Okay, move a little bit back to, whoops, forward. Roughly wrapping the character. It's good. It's good overall. So now we can. The next step is to rotate the actor skeleton to kind of match where the C3Ds are. Okay. But before we rotate the actors, we want to switch basically the humanoid. The humanoid right now is being controlled by its own characters. Okay. We need it to follow the actor skeleton, which is the yellow joints, right? So how do we do that? We switch the source, not to control rig, we switch it to actor. Okay. So now the actor is, sorry, the character is being controlled by the actor. Okay, you see the difference? So now if we rotate this, there's a bit of offset. See, now the actor is being controlled. There is a bit of offset that we can try to fix. It didn't happen yesterday, I don't know why. Let me see if we can fix it. So if we switch back to humanoid and we select these, and we give it a bit more reach. Okay, so what is reach is we're telling the character skeleton to follow one-to-one as much as possible the pivots of the actor skeleton. Okay, so we need to do that for the hands and the feet and the hips. Right now, see, they're all green. You don't need them to follow the rotation, just the translation reach. Okay, they need to be following 100%. Okay, there's one thing I want to try. Realistic shoulder. Okay, so if you go in characters and humanoid, yeah, double click on, if you go in characters, humanoid, double click on it, you will get a bunch of options inside character settings. Okay, inside the solving part, there's something called realistic shoulder solving. Okay, by default it's set to 0, so we just need to increase it a little bit to kind of bring the shoulders up to match the actor. Okay, they don't have to be perfect one-to-one. Just put it at like 60% is good. Okay, so now they are matching. So what we can do now is we can now rotate. Maybe the spine is a little bit, let me see if we can improve the spine. The spine we can have a little bit of translation and rotation. No, we don't need rotation. Maybe just a little bit, because you see here was 2 back. So any offsets like this will be applied to the motion. So we just need to be careful with these offsets to minimize them as much as possible. So maybe we put like 60% on the spine too. So this way it's following the actor better. Or we'll leave it at 60. Okay. So now we're ready to rotate the actor skeleton. We can remove the snapping. So I want the wrist here to be closer to the wrist markers. Okay, see wrists? Yeah. So I'm just going to rotate the shoulder a little bit back, just enough so that they're roughly in the same spot. And same thing with the other one. There we go. And maybe a little bit down. See, that was her T-pose. It's not ideal, and I didn't pay attention to it during the recording, but some it should have been a better T-pose than this, but it's fixable. It's not totally. The spine and waists are good. We just need to offset a little bit of the legs. So we take the actor legs and we rotate a little bit back and a little bit out to kind of put the mesh inside where the markers are. It's again, it's the idea of the markers, or the mesh is wearing the markers. That's the idea of it. I rotate the feet a little bit, so now see it's a little bit closer to the markers, because the further away it is, the more offsets on the motion you're gonna get. So you need to be as close as possible to the markers. Okay, that's good. So the next step is to take the markers and assign them to the actor so that the actor can move using the markers. Okay, so we've created the actor, we've adjusted the joints, we told the character to follow the actor, and now we're gonna tell the markers to drive the actor. How do we do this? Is we go in actors and navigator actor. This is the actor that we created right here, this one. And you double click on the actor and we're gonna create a marker set. So we can't really assign anything before we create a marker set. Think of it as like the character definition. You're defining which actor skeleton is being driven by what. Okay, so we create a marker set, create. You're gonna get these basically empty slots where you can assign the markers to these empty slots. Okay, just to make it a little bit easier on selection, because if you do marquee select on the markers, you're selecting the actor joints, so there is a kind of a selection mask. So in here, if you click on marker selection mask, now the only thing you can select in the viewport is the markers. Okay, so select the 5 head markers and just hold down Alt and left mouse click to that slot. So see now that if you want to call it slot has been filled by those markers, all the head markers. Same thing with the right shoulder. So sorry, left shoulder. We'll do the left shoulder first. Yeah, when you're assigning, please make sure you're facing your character, okay? Because if you're assigning like this, you might do a mistake of assigning the left to the right and the right to the left. So just make sure you're facing your character when you're assigning it. Because if you end up swapping them, then you're gonna get, the motion is gonna be flipped. Actually, the body parts are gonna be flipped, so you're gonna get some weird stuff. If you do a mistake and you assign by mistake something else, you can just select it and delete, select and delete. Okay, that's how you fix it. Okay, so back to this again. Left shoulder. I need the two elbow joints, which is this one and this one. And the two wrist joints. Two hands. So 2, 2, 2, 2 all the way up. Some of them you don't need, like this one, the forearm, you don't need. So basically you just need the joints, the joint markers. Shoulder and the other shoulder, the back. Elbow, elbow. Wrists and the hands. Oops, I missed one. It's okay, we can add the other one. Here we go, hand in, hand out. Now for the spine, it's a little bit confusing, but usually they're more in the center. So the back, chest, and then back low and chest low. 4 for the spine. So now the hips, if you select all the hips, there's 6 altogether, 3 on each side. And you try to assign it, you can't. Why? Because there's a limitation on how many markers per capsule. So for the hips, the only way is to deselect one of them. So it's okay, you can choose any one. I usually go with the front one because there's already 2 front here driving. And so 5 total. So 5 total, that's why everything worked, because it's 5 total. Okay, just keep that in mind. If you have 6 of them, then you won't be able to assign it. One on the ankle. Sorry. Okay, so now the knee. I always forget the knee. I think it's these two. Yeah, we don't need the thigh because the thigh, see, is very far from the joints. So we need these two for the knee. Am I facing the right way? Yeah. The ankle is 1, which is the outside one, this one. Ankle out, right? Yes. It should have been closer here, but it's okay. We're still gonna get data anyway. So ankle, the feet, everything else except for the toe. And then the last one is the toe. Same thing on the other side. and 1, 2, 3. Ankle out, and then these two for that. Okay, so now we finished. All these slots are full. There's no 0. Okay, so we're ready to activate. Tell the markers to drive the actor. Okay, so the way to do this is just click activate. There you go. So if you notice, the actor didn't move at all. That means we did a good setup before. If the feet moved a lot or did something weird, then all the previous steps you did, there was something off, you know, like there's an offset or you missed one of the values or something like that. So that's a good test to see if there was less movement at this step. That means you really did a good job. So I recommend saving before activating because this step is not undoable. So before you click activate, just save your scene and then activate it. Because if there's something off, then you need to go back and change it. See, now our character is moving normally, following the C3Ds. See, look. It's cool, right? That's the process. Just gonna check. All right. Okay, so a couple more steps. I apologize, might we go to 5 o'clock just because of our chat and the beginning. I'll try to do it finish before 5. Okay, so now our character is being driven. If you notice, there is some popping going on. So especially here. What's the worst one? Could be this one. I think around 300. Let me see. He was freaking out. Let's see more. I just want to show you a worse pose where, yeah, so okay, here. So the reason the markers are freaking out here is, first, there was somebody actually underneath Tara. So he was like carrying her and he was like floating around. It's actually a good way to do like flying sequences if you want to later on, once we go back to school. So the reason these markers are freaking out is because they're being occluded by the camera. So the markers are being hidden. So that's why they're freaking out. They don't follow properly. So we can kind of solve some of these issues by creating what we call rigid bodies. Okay, so I'm just gonna go to a frame that's really ugly, maybe here, and show you the difference before and after creating a rigid body. So frame 375, I'll just take a screenshot of this. And then I need to create a rigid bodies, I need to go to the T-pose, to the first frame, okay? And what is a rigid body? Is a rigid body, think of it as a cluster of markers a group of markers that is following kind of each other. The idea behind it is if one of those let's say, I'll create it first to show you what it looks like. I know the shortcut to it, but I wonder if... So these are the curves for the markers, but I want to show you rigid bodies. Okay. If I click add here, so to get this view, just double click on any marker and then select all 5 head markers, go in rigid body and click add. Okay, that works. And now you can rename head. Yeah, you don't need to rename, but it's there for you. So this is the rigid body. It's, like I said, it's a group of markers. So if one of these markers gets occluded by the camera, you don't see it anymore, you can tell that marker, okay, for that amount of frames where it's been occluded, I don't need your curves, just follow the other markers. Okay, so that's the advantage of these rigid bodies, is you can say, okay, marker from here to here, I don't need your markers, just follow the other ones. So that's the gist of it, the gist of the rigid bodies. So create a rigid body per body part, so that if any one of these markers get left behind or gets occluded, they have other markers to follow. Okay, so in total we need 7 of them. Okay, so we need the head rigid body, a spine rigid body. The spine one includes the shoulders, because think of the shoulders are kind of in one lump body part, which is the spine. So once you create the rigid body for the spine, make sure you include the markers for the shoulders. Add, so this would be spine. One for the whole arm. Left arm. Left arm. One for the right arm. Right. Yeah. And one for the waist. So the waist, for the rigid body, you can have more than 5. It's not a problem. It's just when you're assigning it, you have the limit of the 5. Okay. With the legs, be careful not to select the parent, the C3D optical sphere. So control select or hide, or let's do this. I don't know why it disappeared. If you hold down spacebar, you can add to your selection. There we go. It's starting to chug a little bit. I'm wondering if we're gonna crash. Left leg. Correct. Yep. And the last one is the right leg. Okay. Okay, so after creating these, I want to show you now that frame on 375, what it looks like. What? 375. Look at the difference. Huge, right? So what happened is it automatically, right? We're on the right frame. Yeah. So automatically, it's starting to adjust those markers starting to adjust itself, because what happens is if one of them leaves, that cluster or the rigid body will bring it back kind of automatically for you. So already by the rigid bodies, you're saving, depending on the motion, you're probably saving 60–70% of the work, of the manual work of cleaning the C3Ds. So it is a crucial step in this technique of cleaning mocap. It's still popping here and there, so the last step of this process is cleaning up some of those curves. So I'll show you a little bit for the next 10 minutes how to clean up those curves. So we're just gonna need to go to, let's say, this section, really, see where, and then turn on. So at this stage, we don't need the actor anymore, we can hide it. So I'm just gonna hide the actor and the pivot points. See now, if we uncheck the source markers, it hides the markers because now they're assigned. Okay, so we can definitely keep the source markers on. Okay, so I want to find out. I'm just gonna hide the skeleton too of the character. This way, there's less noise as well. Okay, so I want to find out what's going on here. Why is it flipping and flopping like this? Okay. So if you look at the markers, some of them you see they're changing color. Okay, so normally they're like bright blue. Okay, but at some point where the mess starts happening is they turn a little bit dark blue. You see, like this one. See, it's I hope it's easy to see on your side, but once you're working with it, you'll see it clearly, because maybe the zoom compression is not. I'll try to change my background color. Do you guys see? Does anybody see the difference? Is there anybody that doesn't see the difference? I'll try to change the background color to see maybe. Oh, yeah, maybe not. So I missed my chance to win a trip. Okay, maybe purple. Not bad. Let's try purple. So you can see that it's changing colors. So that's when these markers start kind of misbehaving or start losing the camera. Okay, so we wanna pinpoint these change of colors, and I believe it's this one, and open up the curve for it. Okay, so what do? We just double click on that marker, and then you will see a bunch of curves. These are similar to the F curves, but they're marker specific. To access them, Just double click on them. So they have an XYZ curve. So what you need to look for is these spikes, okay? These weird spikes, like here, these spikes. This is what's causing these the bad movement on the arm, okay, or any body part. So the representation here is what you see is the markers have what we call segments of keys, okay? So the filled up section is where the keys exist, and the not filled up section is where there's interpolation between this segment and this segment. So if I scrub backwards, see this segment lights up, it changes color to green. Okay, that means this is active. Okay, but when I pass through it, now I'm in the interpolation segment. So in here, we can change the type of interpolation. We can start with this, okay? So by default, it's giving you auto rigid body interpolation. So we can change this to auto Bezier, okay? See, it's already moving, it's already making the curve better by just changing the interpolation curve type between those two segments. So let's scrub through. See, it's already popping less, but we're not finished yet. So we need to zoom in and get rid of these spikes. See these spikes? Spike here. So we zoom in. Now that segment lights up. And what do? We just want to kill this part of the segment, okay? The way to do this is we go on the frame pre-spike where it spikes up like this, and we say split segment, okay? It will take that segment and split it in half, or split it to the part where it ends, basically. So now we can remove this segment because we don't want this spike. So we split it and then we remove it. We remove it completely. Don't worry too much. It's not going to freak out. The interpolation is, it goes up a little bit because by default it's auto rigid body. So we can change it again to auto Bezier. Okay. So again, here there's a small segment that we don't need to. See, it lights up. You need to zoom in really close to see it. We can keep it. It doesn't really spike. What's spiking is the interpolation here where there's no segment. Okay, so I move here and I change my interpolation curve to auto Bezier just to make it a little bit smoother. And now it's good. So it's still freaking out. Why? Because there's probably another marker freaking out. So we need to do the same thing with the other arm. So let's focus on maybe this section here. See what's going on here. Okay. So I'll put on the markers and see which one is freaking out. So it looks like, see, these markers are moving very fast here. That's the hand markers, these ones maybe. They're changing color anyway, so let's check them out. Yeah, it is spiking a little bit here, so let's change the interpolation. Again here. These segments are okay, they're not freaking out, so we just need to change the interpolation curve here to auto Bezier. And then for sure in here, because look at all these weird parts. Okay, so that's the process. It's kind of a long process, so do the best you can. There's probably another one up there, or probably the bottom one. Still freaking out. Yeah, it's this one. It's possibly this one. I usually like to select it and then I see it more clearly that it's popping in and out. So here, interpolation is not bad. It's just here when it switches here and it's freaking out here as well. So because there's a segment here, small segment, this is another interpolation right between this segment and this segment. So I need to change the interpolation here as well. Okay. See, now it's super smooth. This might be, let's see here. No, it's not the reach. I thought it was maybe the reach. But see, it's already way better than before. So this is the process. I wouldn't do more than 250. Let's keep it light because you still have to do to clean it up as much as possible. Yeah, so the hips are freaking out a little bit too. You probably see it. So they are turning, they're not moving a lot, but oh, it's this one. It's the right thigh. Well, let's see what we can do here before we wrap it up. So it's mostly interpolation. See how much it's freaking out here. And then here. So let's see if that's smoothed it out a little bit. Yeah, that's it. Yeah, probably have to do it with the other ones as well. That's it. I'll stop right here. So this is basically just clean it up as much as possible. You know, all these major pops. Set up your character, set up your actor skeleton, assign the markers properly, and then create your rigid bodies, and then just clean the curves as much as possible. Any questions before we break a little bit and then switch to dailies? No? Okay. Sorry, I missed your chats. Okay, so let's stop right here.